So what is really going on behind an accent? It's a question we don't really ask ourselves that often, do we? Well, today, we're going to dig in and find the answer by looking at one of the most recognizable voices in the entire world.
You know, we've all been there. You're trying to copy an accent and you're twisting your tongue, moving your lips around in weird ways. The general thinking is that an accent is all mechanical. It's just something that happens in your mouth.
But what if I told you that's completely wrong? That the real source of an accent isn't in your mouth at all?
And that, right there, is the million-dollar question. If an accent isn't a physical thing, then what is it? I mean, where does it actually come from?
Well, it all comes down to a state of mind. It's this internal attitude that's shaping every single sound you make before it even gets to your lips.
And this brings us to a really important distinction. See, to get an accent, you're not looking for a kernel, like a military rank that's just imposed on someone. No, you're looking for the kernel. Sounds the same, right? But it means something totally different. You're searching for the core idea.
So, a kernel is that one single foundational thought. You can think of it like a mental anchor. The moment you find it and you kind of load it into your mind, all the other complicated stuff about an accent, the rhythm, the sounds, the intonation, it all just snaps into place on its own. It's what unlocks the voice.
All right, let's make this a little more real, because every single accent has one of these kernels. It's honestly amazing how a single idea can capture a whole way of being. For example, take British received pronunciation. Its kernel is, I am composed and unbothered. Now, if you really feel that state, your speech just naturally gets more precise and restrained. Or think about a classic Southern American accent. The kernel there is, take your time, nothing is urgent. You embrace that feeling, and suddenly your vowels get longer. Your whole cadence just slows right down. You can literally hear how the attitude shapes the sound.
Okay, so what's the kernel, that mental anchor, for a Jamaican accent?
Well, the official kernel is this. Say it straight so we can move on. It's all about being direct, about efficiency. It's this desire to just cut through all the noise and get right to the point. There's just no time for beating around the bush.
Now, people often joke that the real kernel is a little more, blunt. I'm sick of this bullshit. But this isn't just about being angry or frustrated. No, it goes way deeper than that.
That phrase really points to a very specific state of mind. We're talking about a kind of controlled impatience, a really strong sense of moral clarity, what's right and what's wrong, and absolutely zero tolerance for fake performative politeness. You just say what you mean.
And what's wild is that when you load that state of mind, your body just follows. It's automatic. The voice flattens out, you lose all those dramatic ups and downs. Consonants get clipped, they become really precise. Your intonation either drops down or just stays level, which gives everything you say this feeling of finality. The cadence is calm, almost like a judge delivering a verdict. And that's why the accent sounds so authoritative, even when it's just casual conversation. This isn't just some abstract idea. There's actually a scientific term for it. It's called a state-dependent motor program. It's basically a pattern that's hardwired right into your neurology. So you load the mental state, the kernel, and your nervous system just automatically runs the program that controls your speech. This is the big idea right here. Accents aren't about mouth shapes. They're the physical result of a mental state.
Okay, but this is where it gets really mind-blowing. Because this idea doesn't just work for one person's speech, it actually scales up. From a single individual to an entire culture, and even its history.
So, what do you think happens when an entire community shares the same kernel? Not just for a minute or for a day, but for centuries? Well, now we're not just talking about speech anymore. Now we're talking about history.
I mean, just look at the history of the Jamaican Maroons. It's an incredible example. Their whole story is one of resistance. From escaping slavery and just trying to survive in the wilderness, to fighting actual guerrilla wars for their freedom, and then having to enforce treaties just to hold the colonial powers to their word. This wasn't just a short little chapter. This was their entire way of life for a very long time.
And when you have generations of that kind of struggle, it produces a really stable collective disposition. A cultural mindset that's just defined by an intolerance for being oppressed, an intolerance for foolishness, and this deep preference for clarity over just putting on a show. That disposition is their collective kernel.
So, how does this big historical kernel connect all the way back to the individuals who carry it around today? And this brings us right back to where we started. When the Maroons would choose a leader, they weren't looking to appoint a colonel.
Someone with a superficial title just stuck on them. No, they were looking for the kernel made flesh. They chose the person who best embodied the group's core attitude, the person who carried that history of resistance and clarity completely, without watering it down. His authority came from being the real deal.
So, there's the whole connection, laid out right there. It's like a chain reaction. You have this long history of resistance, which creates a stable cultural disposition. That's the kernel. That kernel then runs in the brain as a state-dependent motor program, and that program is what produces the unique sound of the accent. The history, the culture, the neurology, the speech, they're all the same thing, just looked at from different angles.
Which, of course, leaves us with one final thing to think about. An accent isn't just how you talk. It's a reflection of a state of mind, and one that was shaped by history. So the question to ask yourself is, what kernel does your voice carry?